Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Mind and Muse Crafts Podcast. So this is episode 12 in the series of episodes that belong to the year 2021. So today is October the 9th, and I am recording as usual from my home on the island of Puerto Rico, where I live with my husband. And I come to you basically every couple of weeks, and I share with you the crafty side of my life. And by the crafty side of my life, I mean I share with you those projects that I have been working on that involve mostly crochet, but every once in a while there'll be some knitting, some needle felting, and there hasn't been for a while, but every so often I might bring back a sewing project. Let's see, for a couple of almost 2 weeks now, we have entered what is known in the crafting world as Stashtober. And as Stashtober, I have for you today a new sock pattern that I am testing for Claire Smith of Crochet Cakes. And she has shared it with you on her podcast. Therefore, I think it's safe for me to share what I've been up to on this podcast. And during Stashtober, I believe many times over the past couple of years where I have been podcasted, we have participated in one form or another of a cal that involved making socks. I haven't seen one this year on any of the vlogs or podcasts that I follow, but I can mention one which is called Stashtober, which is a cal that is being hosted by Claudia of the Crochet Luna podcast, and several other podcasters are helping her along by either hosting the Ravelry thread or by promoting this activity on their different channels. So you might have heard about this already from Claudia of the Crochet Luna podcast, or from Faye of the Crochet Circle podcast, or from Heather of the HG Crochet podcast, or from Rosina of the Zines and Roger podcast, or maybe from Dora the Explorer, as I know her on, I think her name is Michelle, but her Instagram handle is Dora the Explorer, and I don't believe she has a podcast, but she has been writing on it about how to stash bust on her blog. And also from Claire Smith of Crochet Cakes, you probably would have heard it on her podcast. So I am joining them in promoting the activity, in which you simply need to choose a pattern designed by one of the hosts, along with Claudia, that are hosting the activity, and join the group. You can join either on Instagram, or you can join on the Ravelry thread, which is being hosted by Hannah of the Cozy Cottage Crochet podcast, if I didn't mention her before. So if you're still into Ravelry, you can go over there and check out what's being done there. Now, the basic rule is that you must choose a design from one of the designers or podcasters that I have mentioned, and I might not have mentioned them all. So go check out Claudia's space, and you can get a better idea of who are the designers that have agreed to host this along with her. You go to one of their designers, you choose a project, and you work it along with many other people that hopefully will be doing the same, and you can post your progress or share your doubts, concerns, or just because you want to show what you're up to or what project you chose, you can also go to Ravelry. So you've got Instagram, and they have picked out a hashtag for the cow. That, of course, I am not remembering right now, but I'll try and look it up and put it on the screen if that's helpful to any of you. But like I say, you can always go to Crochet Luna Space, either on video or on Instagram, and you can find out those other details there. So I'm not sure what the hashtag is right now, but you can post to your feed and hashtag whatever the hashtag is, and all those people that are involved in this will see your work. And I believe that they're working out the idea of sharing some prizes for people that are on Instagram and some for those that are in the Ravelry group. So although we don't do this for the prize, do we? Let's just face it, some of us do. For some of us, that's the motivating factor. So whatever the reason is, you want to look through your stash and find a yarn that's been sitting there because it's special or because it's been forgotten, and work up a project with it. You are more than welcome. And obviously one of those projects could be a sock, right? That's where, and then you will not only be celebrating Stashtober, but also Socktober. And so you can kill two birds with one stone there. So, in terms of, let's say, administrative stuff, I don't think there's much more that I'm going to share with you there, but then I will get on with the normal sections of this podcast, which normally begins with a what am I wearing? And speaking of Stashtober, I am wearing a design from or by Elizabeth of the Crochet Cakes podcast, and crochetcakes.com is her blog, and on her blog she has many free patterns that you could work up as a stash buster. But anyway, this is my version of the Las Nubes top, and back when I was testing this for Elizabeth, I decided that I was going to test her pattern in a lace weight yarn. This is Red Heart. This is one of those Red Heart, it's a wrap. It is not this one. This is very pretty though. It's an option. It's been in my stash for a while. Maybe I should work up another version of this. This, if you remember, is a 3-tone. So I made the top using the darker color for the top, and then the second color for the middle, and then the lighter color for the bottom. The colors that I am using are a lot different. This particular one is called, what's it called? Comedy. It's called Comedy. What a great name. And the colors are purple and pink and that sort of like apricot. And I think they would make a fabulous top. Why didn't I think of that before? I don't know. Because this is lace weight, 50% acrylic, 50% cotton, but working with it takes a long time, especially if you're working with, I don't know, a 2.75 millimeter hook or something like that. So let's see. I'll edit this out if it doesn't come out right. The idea is that the top, it is made bottom up, and at the bottom it uses a pineapple stitch that I have always thought, to me, they looked like owls. Do they look like owls to you? And so I changed my color. It's also an inverse raglan, so it starts from the bottom up, and then you do your raglan inverted. And so it is very light to wear. I've worn it many times to work in my home and to different activities. And so, yeah, think about that. You could look up the Las Nubes pattern, and you could choose 2 or 3 yarns from your stash, and you could color block it. And you could color block it and use up something from your stash, or something like this. I believe it did not use up the whole bowl, because I started from the center. My lightest color is at the bottom, and so that section got really big. I have one extra repetition of the pineapple black at the bottom because at that moment I wanted this to be longer. But crochet stretches, and in hindsight, you really wouldn't have to add that extra one, I don't think. I actually think now that it's too long. But anyway, one ball like this is enough to make that whole blouse in more than one color. And so I kind of like had to cut my colors off before I reached the end of them because the blocks were getting too big and I wasn't going to have enough. I wasn't going to have enough of the blouse left to use all my colors. So, well, there's tons of things that you can do with that. Faye of the Crochet Circle podcast has promised in her last podcast to have on her blog a post about using different yarns from your stash together to make a different gauge, to reach a different gauge. So using several fingering to make a chunky or a bulky even, or using a combination of DK. What she talks about from lace weight all the way up to DK, I believe, and how to make the thicker yarns. We're getting close to the winter months on this part of the world, so of course you could actually use a couple of lace weights and to reach your fingering and still be able to work with other parts of the world that are not going into their winter. So there's a lot of information out there, and you can go to the different blogs of the different vloggers and bloggers and designers that are participating in Stashtober, and you can find lots of useful information for your stash busting projects, but also for just making in general. So it's a good time to catch up on your reading here. Catch up on your reading. So the earrings are also the earrings that I shared with you that I coiled up on my I don't know what it's called. What's it called? Coil maker, I guess. And I shared that with you a while back. But actually I am getting a lot of use out of these because I really like them a lot. So, moving on to those projects that I have continued to press on with because I do not have any projects that have reached the end of the line this week. It's been slow crochet. Unfortunately, I did not fulfill my desire to complete my Garita wall art this week. No can do. It didn't happen. I still had a lot of stitches, and so doing more than one row a day I have still not gotten to that point where I can do more than one row a day on a continuous, every day do more than one row. There are some days when I can sit down and do various rows, but there are other days where my time is limited and I can just get one done. But I have advanced to the point, and for those of you that have not been here around for a while, I'll share with you a photo of, because stretching it out here is of no use. You can't get anything from that. But this is my Garita. Well, it's a part of it. This isn't even the whole. I actually wish that had been my Garita because I would have been finished by now. But I include a lot more of the sky, and so it took me a lot longer. Hindsight is 2020. If I were to do this again, I would definitely cut down the sky part of this, and probably emphasize a little bit more this part down here, which is supposed to be the part where the sun is shining on the Garita, and so the side of the building that extends is supposed to have those. It's probably a bit of shading with the sunlight and the building. I don't know. I'm not that good of an artist, so I didn't know. But this is where I am right now. You work your corner to corner diagonally, and so this is what I have left, this top part. That's what I have left. So I've done a great deal of progress. I don't know if the last time, I don't believe we were seeing any of the top part of the Garita, which means that I am reaching the end of this project. But it is perceivable now. So I'll just get it out quickly. These are my instructions that I printed out. If you haven't been here, La Garita is a design that I created on Stitch Fiddle. And Stitch Fiddle is a software that not only allows you to create a design by coloring in square grids And you can also incorporate photos, or you can also incorporate QR scans, QR barcodes, and so it can bring in a set of instructions that have been stored on a barcode, which is just fantastic if you ask me. And so these are the instructions. It is 4 pages. I'm down to 3. I'm over here on row 128, and I have to go up to 175. So, okay, I've got a whole page of these left. I've got over maybe close to 50 rows, but you notice that, the rows get really small here. So when I get down to this part, I will have conquered this, and I will say I'm almost done, because there definitely I'll be able to do many rows per day. I am hoping. So there's been progress, but not as much as I wanted. Remember that I had designed this last year for the National Hispanic Heritage Month, which is celebrated every year from September 15th to October 15th. I don't know if any of you have decided to celebrate it along with me by selecting a design from a Hispanic or Latin designer or yarn dyed by a Hispanic or Latin dyer, and just using that as a form of recognition, right, for the contributions that they have made to our society in general. So just the most interesting part is over here. There it is. You can now actually see my Garita. And so, if you didn't know what I was talking about before, you now know what I am talking about, right? That lookout space that medieval times, they put on castles, and we always have them in our castles because we are always looking out towards the sea to see if we were going to get invaded. And happy me, because I've only got 4 bobbins attached. 1, 2, 3, 4 bobbins, and I used to have about 10 or 12, and so the work is a lot easier. It's a lot easier going now, for sure. I shouldn't say that, but hopefully, yes, it will be done by the next podcast. And so on the next podcast, if it is done, I'll try to choose a place in my home where I can actually hang this, and so you can appreciate it maybe behind me the whole time that I am podcasting. That would be a triumph in itself to just find some place like that in my home. But yes, I don't know what will happen in the end with this. I have offered it to my daughter Clarissa Beth, but at one point she said, "Mom, that's really big for a wall." And I'm like, yeah, I kind of get it now. It is really big. And so maybe there is a chance that in the long run, nobody will want it, and I'll just have to put it up on one of my walls here, because a lot of work went into that, and I do think it's going to be nice. So I've actually updated it, and I've put a little palm tree here in the background because my daughter said it might look better with a bit of green, but I'm still considering removing a nice chunk of this, so it would be a more rectangular design, maybe just moving this over. You can do things like that in Stitch Fiddle, like remove certain sections of it. Yeah, so the design as it is now is no longer the one that I started. But yes, it looks like I'm going to have to at some point make another one just to try out and see if my ideas are working there. Well, that's the biggest project. You can imagine how much time I've spent every single day before I go to bed or early in the morning when I get up and before my day starts. It has moved on. I have progressed. It's just that I didn't reach my goal because there was a lot more left than I thought. but I'm going to make it. I know I am going to make it. Thank you to all of you that have been cheering me on here and sending me little notes and wishing me the best with my project and telling me that I can do this. Of course, I know I could do it. It's just that it's not a matter of ability let's say, it's just a matter of knowing yourself and knowing that if a project extends for too long a period, you will get bored with it and move on to something else. And it doesn't mean I won't come back to it later on. It just means that it won't get done as quickly because I'm doing other things in between. So one of the things I was doing in between this week, for example, was a new sock. As I said before, Elizabeth of the Crochet Cakes podcast and crochetcakes.com is also a crochet designer, and she has designed a new sock pattern that she is calling the square root sock, and I'm supposing that on her podcast she has explained to you why she chose that name. For me, it's a very mathematical name, so I don't have a problem with it, but some of you might question why it was called that. So I'll put up a picture here of the sock that she shared on her podcast, like a screenshot from her video, so that you can see what hers looks like. And I'll share you mine. I decided to use these two colors because I thought they went brilliant together, and I have always found that one of the hardest colors to photograph or to film are the blues. They rarely come out true in color. For example, this is coming out like a very royal blue. It's not that. It is a very dark turquoisey blue. And my guess is because it's just not enough light. Maybe for blues you need more light. I don't know. But it's not coming out at all the color that it is. Anyway, it was paired with this. I have no idea where I got this yarn from, who left it behind, but it was in my stash. And I am pairing it with this one that I do know. This is from Kay of the Bakery Bears, and it is her Remus. It's her Remus Lupin colorway. And so it is a variegated yarn with colors of white and different greens and different shades of blue and some blacks and some grays. And I think it's just... And I also think that the cake does not do it justice. And I'll show you what it looks like crocheted up. Though I have not completed this test of the sock, here, I worked on it a bunch, and so I already have the toe, the leg, the heel, and I am about ready now to start the leg. Now, I know you're looking at this and you're saying what I'm saying, geez, that looks wide. But the idea is that this was not for me. So I was going to make it wide because the socks were going to be a Christmas gift and they weren't for me. So I wanted them to be bigger than if I had made them for me. So they are wide. They are 60 stitches. And it's got the type of heel that, because of the way it is constructed, where you do a row around the back, a row around the front, and come back, you really can't change your color for the whole heel. So we only did the flap. Okay, so that was one. And so I'm at a point where here I stopped because I also saw it being like wider than what I would need it, even for the person that I wanted to give it to. So I decided, because there is a hook change here. When you start the heel, you change your hook size so that you give yourself more room to get the sock on. And I did that, and I think I didn't need to. For my gauge, I didn't need to. But I did start the second one. And so here's the second sock. It's on a different step. Here's the second one. Because I wanted to get to the part of the sock that has the color work in it, which is made to like show off that contrasting color. And I think it does that very nicely. Now, the reason that I worked this one up was because I had initially been planning here not to change my hook size and to see if the sock would still fit. Then for some reason I changed my mind. I think looking at Clarissa's sample, I changed my mind. And I thought that maybe when I worked up the color work, that would bring my ankle in so that it would be a little bit, not necessarily tight, but it would fit better the size of my leg. But it happened for her, but not for me. So definitely our gauges are different. And so I figured at the end, well, let me knit the cuff in this contrasting color. So I've already put on my knitting needle there. Let me knit the cuff to see if that will bring it in enough to at least look like a slouchy sock. I think that would look okay. But then I have my doubts. I still have my doubts. So what I think I am going to do is I'm going to rip this one back to the flap. And then I'm going to continue with the regular hook size all the way up to the leg and see if I get a fit that's not as baggy. Because I did make socks for this person before, and the socks were initially for me, but then they were too big on me, so I gifted them, and they did fit, and they weren't as big as these. So I'm thinking that maybe I didn't need a 60 stitch sock. I could have made a 56 stitch, or that I just shouldn't have changed my hook size here. Because changing the hook size for the heel normally depends on your gauge. It can depend also on the heel. These are short row heels, and since they're short row heels, they don't have a gusset. And since they don't have a gusset to open up here for the widest part of your foot, then they change hook size for the heel to give it a better fit. But all of these things, when you crochet socks, depends on and probably when you knit also, depends on your gauge. You all know that I've also knit socks that have not at one point fit me and then another point been too tight, and using the same needles, the same type of yarn. It's just that gauge is an issue whenever you hand make stuff. So whenever you're hand making something, stitch by stitch gauge will be an issue. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to rip this back up to here. I'm going to remain with my original hook size, which was a 3.25 for me. And then I am going to do it with the same hook size all the way through and see if that changes it and by how much. And if that works, then I will have to rip this one all the way back and start it again. But I was dying to get to the color work to see. If I redo this one, I'll also take care of the jog that I'm getting here. That jump that I am getting, because these are worked in a spiral and not in the round. But there are ways to take care of that. I just didn't pay attention to it. But I thought that color work looked really cute. So those are the square root socks. And they most definitely will be finished also by the next time we talk. And this is also a very good stash buster for Stashtober, because it uses at least 2 yarns from your stash. But I guess somebody could look into having it use more. Maybe the leg, you want to do it in 2 colors instead of 1, because you've got 20 grams or 30 grams of one color and 30 of another, and you just want to work it up in like blocking of colors. You probably could do that too. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone with this Stashtober and Socktober. And so it's good to, I don't know, I am a person that likes to celebrate, so having these moments in the year where I look forward to certain celebrations keeps my making motivated. And so that's what I've been working on, essentially. I did want to show you something else that I received in the mail. I received my copy of the Mont magazine. I suppose that you have heard about this by many crochettists over the past months, maybe, yeah, maybe ever since last September or something, ever since they started planning this. Everybody in the crochet community that I know has been promoting this, promoting the participation in the project that they the funding project that they ran to get this funded, and then participating as designers, and then participating as subscribers. Well, they don't have subscriptions open, but they did pre-order this first issue, and I believe they'll do the same with the second one. And so I know they're at least planning 3, because I just saw the subscription, what do you call it? The call for designs for the 3rd issue. So I know there at least will be 3 of them. But this one was special to me because I did donate so that this project could get funded. And so my name appears in this. And it's also special because the projects are beautiful. And so if you have followed the KCACY podcast, at one point she presented all of these projects on her podcast. So there are beautiful mittens, and let me just do my favorites. Here's a favorite of mine. I think that's really nice color work. I love the plummy color. I think that's beautiful. And I also obviously have to say that one of my favorites was going to be this design. I think that is a great looking sweater. It's a great representation of what great crocheters can make. I thought that was beautiful. But of course, then I don't want to leave out that it's also special to me because Elizabeth has, this is the first, no, it's not the first, but it is, well, it's the first issue of Mont, let's say a new project published by Allison Chu, which is somebody who I've met in person. And it is also a craft magazine that tries to put crochet front and center. And so I guess they also tried to do it in such a way that they tried to put out the best of crochet out there. Not just anything, but the best of crochet. And when Allison was planning this, she approached Elizabeth, my daughter of the Crochet Cakes podcast, and she requested that she'd submit a design for socks. And so Elizabeth was giving the wool, and she designed these socks. The pictures, the photograph of the crochet, and this is all done in Edinburgh, and all the background scenery is typical of Edinburgh during the the time of year when these photos were taken. So I love that photo, and I also love what they're called. They're called shepherdess. And the introduction they give to the sock is so beautiful that I'm going to read it to you. Wonderfully woolly and plump, shepherdess is a cozy pair of winter hiking socks that are ideal for novice sock makers. Slip stitch crochet is the oldest form of crochet, which is easy to imagine given its basic instruction. In Britain, it was known as shepherd's knitting and was done in a flat hook. Some Victorian books claim shepherd's knitting was originally practiced by Scottish peasants, and although the origins of crochet are a tangled knot yet to be unraveled, this early Scottish link to crochet tickles us right down to our toes. So, all that introduction because these are slip stitch socks. And they were modeled by a young man. So it's not the typical sock that you see always on women's feet. These are modeled by a man. And he actually expressed to Elizabeth that he thought they were very comfortable, that they fit him very well. So there are articles in here. There's beautiful crochet. There is one non-crochet project, which is an embroidery project. And it's all just full of photos and goodness. It's goodness. It's just something that you can actually just sit down and read. You can purchase the printed copy, and I believe that there are some stockists now in the US that have brought this over. And you can also purchase the digital copy if you don't want to purchase the paper-bound one. But it's a beautiful issue. My congratulations to Alison Shu and all the group of people that collaborated to make this a reality. It is a great publication. I hope everyone who has received it enjoys as much as I have, because I really have. So that's one of the things that I didn't make that, but it has a lot to do with crochet and putting crochet out there. And it is a very well-made magazine, believe me when I say that. I have begun, if you talk about things that are on my radar, I have begun planning for the upcoming gifting season, and I have chosen for my eldest daughter. It's funny how every year I make my eldest daughter something that normally does not fit her, or that she does not like the style, or for some reason never gets used. It's not funny, it's actually a shame. And it's also not funny that I continue to insist that I'm going to make something until I find something that she will actually wear. So I checked with her the following pattern, and she said that she liked it, that it looked very nice, that I needed to make sure that I could make it larger and longer. And so the pattern comes in sizes from, well, let's say in inches, a bust size from 35 1/4 up to 55 1/2. So I think she's covered there. Now, unfortunately, which is something that I find shocking in patterns, especially patterns that are well priced, that you pay the price for them because a lot of work went into it, and I understand that, but why do you only put in one photo? So there's only one photo of this in the pattern, and I'm showing it to you this big because since I have a digital version of the pattern and I can make it bigger, but if you had a printed version of the pattern, you'd be stuck with a very small picture. But if you go, for example, onto Ravelry, if you're still doing this, this is a design. It's called the Mont Blanc jacket, the Mont Blanc jacket. And it is designed by Lila Bjorn. And so if you go on to Ravelry, she has a Ravelry page, and her testers and other people have already put up projects in all different shapes and sizes and colors too. So you can see different versions of this, that people did it differently. Some people, for example, if you can see, it's got a fuzzy yarn around the collar. Some people brought that fuzziness all the way down, kind of like lined that front panel of the jacket with that. And definitely some of them made it longer so it looked more like a coat and all that. Well, I don't know where I'm going to go with that, but I purchased, it is made with, which is something else that caught my attention. It is made with sheep years, or sheep years. I mean, I don't speak the language, so obviously I'm not going to pronounce it the way they do. But you've heard enough people pronounce it so that I know that I'm pronouncing it wrong. But anyway, it is made with Stonewashed XL 70% cotton and 30% acrylic. And so I have chosen the same yarn. I have purchased it. And this colorway is, this is sport weight, and it's just called Garnet. And it's just called Garnet. So I've got lots of this. I wanted the option to be able to make it larger, and so I found it on sale, and I was able to purchase it. And so hopefully, I know this is a big project, so I need to get it started soon, or if not, it'll never get done. So that's one of the projects that are on my radar for the upcoming months. You'll see that along with my other makes. And I also received in the mail this kit. It's called the Hello Pumpkin Kit because it is from the Living Felt, and they send you enough supplies to make 2. I believe there's enough to make 2 in here. These are cards, needle felted cards. So you felt the wool, glue it onto cardstock, fold it in half, and you write a note on the inside. And I thought that was very pretty. They have done a couple of videos that they have online. They have a weekly podcast every Wednesday afternoon. I think it's about 2 o'clock U.S. time, well, wherever they're from. Where are they from? It says Texas. I don't know. So I always watch it at 2 o'clock. And they take you through, every week they take you through a different project, and they give you hints and tips on how to make it. I guess they work you through the most difficult parts of it, and I made several projects with them, and I thought this was very nice to send out for Halloween. Of course, I'd have to make it this week, because if not, the way things are working in the mail, it might not get there to its destination in time, but hopefully that's going to be a nice, comforting, relaxing make, because, you know, poking into that wool is always I always find it very comforting, very comforting. So that's on my radar for the next couple of weeks too. And so until we meet again, I will say goodbye for now, and hope that in the meantime, until we meet again, you keep yourself safe, you keep yourself happy, and you obviously keep yourself crafting. Bye for now. I'll see you soon.